We don't need that garbage here, my mother said. She snatched the small chocolate cake out of my hands and dropped it straight into the metal trash can. Then my father, Ryan, stepped forward. He didn't wish me a happy birthday. He handed me a heavy, cream-colored envelope embossed with his company logo. "You are a failed investment, Jasmine," he said, his voice projecting so all 100 relatives could hear. "This is the bill for every cent we wasted keeping you alive. Pay it, or get out of my sight forever." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. An invoice. Total due, $248,450. Itemized lists for diapers, rent, and an $8,000 inconvenience fee. The room went dead silent. I looked at the paper, then at him. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt the part of me that wanted their love finally die. I closed the folder calmly. I put the invoice in my bag, and I turned around and walked out the door without a word. I stood there holding a bill from my own childhood. Drop a comment. What's the most heartless thing a family member has ever said to you over money? I want to read your stories. My apartment was dark when I got home. It smelled like damp drywall and lemon cleaner. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat on the floor with my back against the door, still clutching the bag with the invoice inside. My name is Jasmine. I am 26 years old, and for the last 5 years, I have lived like a ghost in my own life. I looked around my studio. It was 300 square feet of nothing. My mattress was on the floor because I couldn't afford a frame. My dinner for the last 2 weeks had been instant noodles and tap water. I walked 3 miles to work every single day, rain or shine, because saving $2.50 on bus fare added up. I wasn't poor because I didn't have a good job. I was a forensic accountant for a mid-sized firm. I made good money, but I didn't get to keep it. On the first of every month, like clockwork, I transferred $2,000 to my father. It started when I was 21. Dad had called me, weeping. He said the business was failing. He said the bank was going to take the house where I grew up, the house where my little sister, Alyssa, still lived. He told me I was the only one who could save them. He called me his rock. So I stepped up. I sacrificed everything. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't go out with friends. I didn't date. I became a machine that converted hours of my life into cash for them. I thought I was the hero of the story. I thought I was keeping a roof over my family's head. I sat there on my floor, shivering, and pulled out my phone. I needed a distraction from the invoice, burning a hole in my bag. A notification popped up. It was from Alyssa. Alyssa was 22. She didn't work. She didn't go to school. She was an influencer, which meant she took photos of things my parents bought her. I clicked the video. It was an unboxing video, posted 2 hours ago, right before the party started. "Hey guys," Alyssa chirped on the screen. She was sitting on her bed in the master suite, the room that used to be mine before I moved out. She looked glowing, healthy, well-fed. Daddy just surprised me with the best early birthday present ever. He said I deserve it for being his sunshine. She pulled a bag out of a dust cover. It was a designer handbag. Canary yellow leather. Gold hardware. I knew exactly how much that bag cost, because I audited retail firms. It was $5,000. I paused the video. I looked at the timestamp. She posted it at 4 in the afternoon. I opened my banking app. I looked at my transaction history. 3 days ago, I had sent my monthly mortgage support payment. $2,000. The exact amount Dad said he was short. My stomach turned over. I felt physically sick, a cold sweat breaking out on my neck. I pulled up the calendar. Last month, I sent money on the 3rd. On the 5th, Alyssa posted a new pair of diamond earrings. The month before that, I sent money for emergency roof repairs. 2 days later, my mother posted pictures from a spa weekend at a resort in Sedona. I wasn't saving the house. I never was. The house wasn't in danger. The business wasn't failing. My father wasn't crying because he was scared of homelessness. He was crying because he knew it worked on me. I wasn't a daughter to them. I wasn't even a person. I was a utility. I was an appliance they plugged in when they wanted cash and unplugged when they wanted to celebrate. I looked at the invoice in my bag again. Inconvenience fee. They didn't hate me because I was bad. They hated me because they had to exploit me. And looking at me made them feel a tiny flicker of guilt. So they turned that guilt into rage. They convinced themselves I owed them so they could sleep at night while stealing my future to fund Alyssa's vanity. I closed my eyes. The sadness that had weighed me down for 5 years evaporated. In its place, something cold and sharp clicked into place. My forensic accountant brain finally woke up. They wanted to treat our relationship like a business transaction. They wanted to talk about who owed what, Okay, I whispered to the empty room. Let's audit the books. 2 days after the birthday dinner, my phone rang. It was my father. I stared at the screen. Part of me, the old, desperate part, hoped he was calling to apologize. Maybe he realized the invoice was cruel. Maybe he wanted to say he loved me. I picked up. Jasmine, he said. No hello. No apology. His voice was impatient, like he was ordering a coffee. I need you to come over. The cleaning crew quoted me $500 to clear out the home office before the gala, and I'm not paying that robbery. You need to come do it. I gripped the phone tight. You want me to clean your office? I want you to earn your keep, he snapped. You still owe us for that invoice. Consider this a partial payment. Be here in an hour. And don't wear anything nice. It's filthy in there. He hung up. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't cry. I felt a strange calm settle over me. He wasn't calling a daughter. He was calling a servant. But he was also making a critical, tactical error. He was inviting a forensic accountant into the room where he kept his financial secrets. I drove to the estate. The gates opened, and I parked next to his polished Lexus. The house looked majestic, a monument to their ego. But I knew now it was built on a foundation of lies and my stolen money. Dad met me at the door. He was dressed for golf, polo shirt, expensive slacks. He didn't look me in the eye. He just gestured for me to follow him to the study. The room smelled like stale cigar smoke and old paper. It was a disaster. Piles of files were stacked on the mahogany desk, spilling onto the floor. In the corner, there were 3 large cardboard boxes taped shut. He kicked the nearest box with his expensive loafer. This is the junk, he said. Old records, tax scraps, useless garbage. Take these 3 boxes out to the fire pit in the backyard and burn them. I don't want a single scrap of paper left. The gala guests will be using this room as the cigar lounge, and I don't want it looking like a hoarding pit. He looked at me, waiting for a fight. He wanted me to argue. He wanted me to say, I'm not your maid, so he could scream at me about being ungrateful. It was his favorite game, but I had a new game plan. In my line of work, we learn that criminals are most dangerous when they feel threatened. When they feel safe, that's when they get sloppy. That's when they leave the vault door open. I dropped my shoulders. I let my posture slump. I forced my voice to sound small and defeated. Yes, Daddy, I whispered, staring at the floor. I'll take care of it. The tension left his body instantly. He smirked. He saw exactly what he wanted to see. A broken girl who knew her place. Good, he said, checking his watch. I have a tea time. Make sure this place is spotless by the time I get back. He grabbed his keys and walked out. I waited. I heard the front door close. I heard the Lexus engine start and fade down the driveway. The silence returned to the house. I was alone. I looked at the useless garbage he wanted me to burn. My father was arrogant, but he was also lazy. He didn't shred documents because shredders jammed. He didn't hire a professional service because he was cheap. He entrusted the destruction of his financial history to the one person he thought was too stupid to understand it. I locked the office door. I walked over to the first box and ripped the tape off. Okay, Ryan, I said to the empty room. Let's see what you're trying to hide. I sat on the floor of my father's office, surrounded by the smell of dust and old secrets. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. Evidence collection mode. I opened the first box. It was mostly junk, old utility bills, expired warranties. But then I found a manila envelope at the bottom. It was sealed, but the glue had dried out and popped open. Inside were bank statements. Not for Ryan Consulting. Not for their personal accounts. These were for Alyssa Ventures LLC. I flipped through them. The address listed for the LLC was this house. The registered agent was my father. And the deposits. My breath caught in my throat. Every month, on the 1st, there was a deposit of $5,000. The memo line simply said, Kevin, investment. Uncle Kevin, my sweet, gullible Uncle Kevin, who had worked construction his whole life and trusted his big brother to manage his retirement fund. Dad had told everyone he was investing Kevin's money in high-yield tech startups. I looked at the withdrawals on the very next line of each statement. Debit, Neiman Marcus, $2,400. Debit, Delta Airlines First Class, $1,800. Debit, the Ritz-Carlton, $950. There were no tech startups. There were no investments. My father was taking his own brother's life savings, funneling it into a shell company, and using it to pay for Alyssa's influencer lifestyle. That canary yellow handbag she posted? Uncle Kevin paid for that. Her trip to Cabo? Uncle Kevin paid for that too. I felt a wave of nausea, hot and sharp. Stealing from me was one thing. I was young. I could recover. But Kevin was 60. This was his future. This was his life. I photographed every single page. My hands were shaking, but the photos were clear. I moved to the second box. This one was messier. Loose receipts, handwritten notes. And then I saw it. The carbon copy of the invoice he gave me on my birthday. It was stapled to a tax form. In the margin, in my father's distinct, jagged handwriting, was a note to his accountant. Mark this $248,000 as staff training and development expense for the consulting firm. Need to offset the capital gains this year. I stared at it. He wasn't just trying to guilt me. He was planning to claim my debt as a business deduction. He was going to tell the IRS that raising his daughter was a deductible business expense. You greedy, arrogant man, I whispered. He had documented his own intent to commit tax fraud. He had written it down in blue ink. I took the picture. I reached for the third box. It was smaller, tucked away in the back. Inside, buried under old magazines, was a thick, yellowed envelope. The handwriting on the front made my heart stop. It wasn't my father's. It was elegant, loopy cursive. To my granddaughter, Jasmine. It was from Grandma Rose. She died 3 years ago. I never got a letter. My parents told me she was too sick at the end to write, that she slipped away without saying goodbye. I opened it. The date at the top was 2 weeks before she passed. My dearest Jasmine, it read. I know how they treat you. I see how they make you small so they can feel big. You are the only light in this family, and I will not let them snuff you out. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them away furiously. I needed to read this. I have set up a trust for you. It is separate from the family estate. $1.2 million. It is yours, and yours alone. I have instructed the lawyer to contact you directly. But I know your father. He has a way of intercepting things. If you are reading this, it means you found the truth. Do not let them touch it. Run, my darling. Take the money, and run. They intercepted the lawyer. They hid the will. They stole the letter. They let me believe my grandmother died without thinking of me, just so they could control the money. The sadness I felt moments ago vanished. It was replaced by a cold, hard rage. It started in my chest and spread to my fingertips. They didn't just steal money. They stole love. They stole my last connection to the only person who actually cared about me. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was war. I didn't burn the boxes. I carefully packed everything back in. I carried them out the side door to my car, loaded them into the trunk, and covered them with a blanket. Then I went back into the office. I took the ash from the fireplace and smeared it inside the empty fireplace grate to make it look like I had burned them. I left the room spotless, just like he asked. I got into my car. I looked at the house one last time. It looked different now. It didn't look like a home. It looked like a crime scene, and I was the lead investigator. The venue was the grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton, a place that smelled of old money and fresh lilies. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling like frozen tears. There were ice sculptures of swans, a 10-tier cake that probably cost more than my car, and a string quartet playing soft, inoffensive classical music. It was the perfect stage for my parents' greatest performance. The happy, wealthy couple. I sat in my car in the valet line, watching the guests stream in. They were the city's elite investors, local politicians, business partners, people my father needed to impress. People who had no idea their investments were funding a 22-year-old's Gucci addiction. I pulled out my phone and sent the text. Mom, I liquidated my savings. I have the check for the full invoice amount. Can I come in to give it to Dad? The response came in less than 30 seconds. Use the side entrance. Do not cause a scene. Give the check to your father before the speeches start. And try to look presentable. I smiled. It was the smile of a hunter watching a trap snap shut. They weren't suspicious. They were greedy. They saw me as a conquered territory, coming to pay tribute. They felt safe. I stepped out of the car. I wasn't wearing the drab gray office clothes they were used to seeing me in. I was wearing a suit I'd bought that morning. It was sharp, tailored, and blood red. It was a power suit. It was the color of a warning flag. The color of an audit. I clutched my purse tight against my side. It felt heavy, but not from makeup or keys. Inside was a cashier's check for $248,450. It was every penny I had left in the world, plus a small loan I'd taken against my 401k. It was financial suicide. But next to the check was a thick file folder containing the photos I'd taken in the office. And clipped to my bra strap, underneath the silk of my blouse, was a small, high-fidelity wiretap. I walked through the side doors, bypassing the receiving line. The room was buzzing with chatter. I scanned the crowd and spotted them. My parents were near the front, holding court. My mother was dripping in diamonds, new ones, likely bought with the latest investment from Uncle Kevin. My father was laughing, his hand on the shoulder of a man I recognized as a city councilman. And then I saw him. Uncle Kevin. He stood by the bar in a rented tuxedo, nursing a beer, looking exhausted like a man still working for a retirement that was already gone. "Jasmine," he said brightly when he saw me. "I didn't think you'd come. Your dad said you were struggling." "I was," I replied, taking his hand. "But I'm here to fix everything." He had no idea that in 20 minutes, I would break his heart to save his life. Across the room, my father tapped his glass. The spotlight hit him. He looked powerful, untouchable. He didn't know I was holding the detonator. I checked my phone's recording light and walked toward the stage.